All right, welcome back, everybody, to episode 13 of the BigD podcast. We've taken a fair break from the BigD podcast because we just hadn't had a huge amount to be able to talk about. But I'm extremely excited because we have something quite new, somebody quite new, and something to look forward to in this podcast. I am going to be introducing you to the one and only Irontaxi. Iron, thank you so much for taking a busy Canadian day off to be able to make this happen
Yeah.
for me. Really, really do appreciate your time and effort through here. Those that might know Iron Taxi, good. Those that don't, Iron Taxi is actually one of the original developers, makers, owners, the shebang. He was the man for Squad, one of the games that we host as Big D right now. So this is quite interesting. And Iron Taxi, what are you making right now? What's this new game that we're hearing about? Give us the rundown.
Yeah, to give you guys like a high level summary, it is an infantry centric milsim. It's really based around accessibility and choices. That's the high level. So ultimately the goal is that players can come into this very well polished milsim infantry simulation and make their own gameplay layers, co-op, single player, multiplayer. And right now we're basing it around this core core theme, which is EXFIL, which is essentially a sandbox game mode, but it's based around that core kind of exfiltration style of gameplay, minus the looting. So it's much more in the squad vein or in the arma vein. That's kind of the basis of it all.
So I was wondering where you actually got the name from EXFIL, and I think it's only sort of tweaked now. Like I'm not the
Yeah,
fastest person known to me, and so why did you pick EXFIL? What was it about it?
man. Ironically, I helped Roberto, who's one of the primary partners on this project as well. He had this framework he was working on, and at that time, we hadn't fully decided to work together and build out this project together, but we had kind of scratched the surface on it, and he didn't have a name for it. And at the time, exfil games were not just popping off everywhere like crazy, and it was really the theme that it had built into it was exfil. So after going through a bunch of different ideas, we came up with exfil, put it on this thing, and then literally 6 months later, I'm talking almost a year and a half, 2 years ago. Everything had exfil in it, and we were like, "Fuck!" Like,
You were just making a
no,
game
we
for the
were we were
theme, but
literally like, okay, it really is to the point of nausea, like to us now, right? Hearing the word exfil, and it's like, man, we're either gonna have to own it or or change it.
well,
So,
and here we are owning it.
and here we
So
are.
and
Yeah, exactly. Right.
that's what you want now. You're
Redefining it would be what
read
we'll have to do, right? Yeah, yeah.
reshaping, remolding to
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
how
yeah.
how you see it now. I've played a little bit of this now. It is still in alpha,
Yep,
correct? Currently,
yep,
so it's in
yep.
in alpha on Unreal Engine 5, and I've had a bit of a play with it. Now, I did recognize some of the movements and assets that I've seen from
Yeah.
Unreal 5, and I know they're very reliable. So it's really good to be able to see those in there. But obviously, you have the ability to be able to code, or you got team to be able to actually code. So you're not just going to be
Yeah,
slapping in a
yeah,
heap of
yeah.
assets. Like I
No,
see,
no, no, no.
I see the promise behind this, which is really good. Really, really early days, but you've really decided to be able to run with that theme, and you're actually sticking with it. Instead of some of the games that'll come out and they'll just sort of slap a lot of things together, and you don't exactly know where the direction of that's sort of going. So, where do you want EXFIL to sit in terms of community space in the gaming industry where we sit now? So, we've got games like your Arma, your
Yeah,
Hell Let Loose, Halo 4, and you've come from making squads. So, you've got
yeah,
a fair bit to be able to stand up to. Like, despite how much people can rat on Squad for what it is, it's held out for like 10 years.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's extremely well made game when you look at the grand scheme of things of where it is. So, where do you want EXFIL to sit in this gaming
Yeah.
space?
So one thing fundamentally and this is not about comparing with Squad necessarily, but just looking at.
People will compare it anyway,
No,
whether
no,
you want
sorry.
to or not.
Sorry. No, no. I'm not going to talk about the. I was going to talk about something else, but I'll go into it in a second. I was prefacing the fact that this is not specifically about that comparison, but what I see with a lot of the stuff that's going around, and I mean, I'm a guy who works in Unreal Engine every single day, so I know exactly what's going on here. A lot of new stuff that comes out, honestly, the performance is trash. And I know why it's trash, and it's because they're using Unreal 5. They don't know how to use it properly, and that is one. And I'm saying this with a with a dose of confidence because we're already proving that we're able to do it. But the big thing is we have intentionally not spent our time on the flash, and we are intentionally spending our time on the fundamentals and making sure they are solid as a rock. So if you spin this up in local or dedicated server, you should be getting the same experience, like 32 players. We don't want there to be any difference there. The fundamental systems underneath need to be hard and stable, rock based. We have very few crashes. I don't think I've even seen this in a single server crash through like the last couple weeks of gameplay and now in Next Fest. I don't think I've seen any. I haven't been on all the time, obviously, but as far as I can see in our tracker, there haven't been any server crashes. That's what we're basing this on. Or at least
Yeah, well,
that's
I
the
haven't gotten any
fundamental.
local crashes either,
No,
so like no Unreal
and
crashes, no
and
real
for
stuttering,
well,
and
I mean, pick any Unreal 5 game in this genre and tell me whether you think you're going to get a crash or not when you're playing it as
no
an early
comment,
access.
no
Exactly. As an
no
early
comment on
access
that one.
release
I don't
on
want to
Unreal
name
5.
names.
Right. So our point is, and by the way, we actually offered to help some of these titles that will remain nameless and talk to them a little bit, and they're just not interested. We're like, okay. I mean, I don't think
You do you do
they didn't
you.
believe our pedigree or like that we had the chops to do it. And we're like, fine, that's we were willing to help, but anyway, that's going to be the fundamental. And then on top of that, we know that we've always wanted to do this. One of the big things is accessibility, and it doesn't mean casual, and it does not mean arcade. Those two things are not what accessibility means for us. As far as a pillar around accessibility, it's about the guys that we are today are not the guys we were 20 years ago. I'm 48 years old now. I have a son who's here part time and etc. Everybody's got a lot of stuff going on. Hopefully in our lives we're learning how to handle all this stuff and we're kind of decelerating and getting better at lifing, but we know a lot of our kind of compatriots or guys that we want to play games with, they got like an hour or maybe two.
Yep, when that
And
dad life hits, you got
yep.
a very short period of time to be able
So
to
it's
game, so you
it's
need to be able to get that.
absolutely one of our pillars is that you need to be able to jump in, know where the server is, where your friends are playing right now, join it, and I would say 2 to 3 rounds in an hour is kind of our objective. Yeah, 2 to 3 basically. So we know that as a fundamental, like we need to get people into the action, but we still need to give them thinking time because we're not building a stupid game, right? So this is kind of the things that we constantly thread back and forth when we're weaving this game together. Is like how can we give people room to breathe and think, but we need to get them in the action. So one of the ways that we're doing that in this one is keeping the maps relatively small with an eye on getting it to console as a gateway drug as well from the milsim spectrum. It doesn't need to be massive with inventory. This is a very like controllable space, and we want every single level to be a sandbox. So rather than having fixed lines and avenues, we randomize everything. So,
Yeah,
where the helicopter spawns that for a mission is randomized, where you drop in is randomized. It's not like AS or anything like that. Every single time you play it, I talk a little bit higher level, but the vectors that you're crossing in the map, if you were to draw a line between where the players spawn, where they go to the objective and then where they leave the map, if you were to draw those lines every single time the map spawns or the game is played, they're completely different. So you
and
will
that's
turn
what I noticed after a few different
yeah,
rounds is that it's not the same. Even though you spawn in a
not
different area, it's not
not
that
even
same
close.
gameplay.
No.
And it gives me a real like the more that we talk about EXFIL, the more it gives me a real SOCOM feel.
Oh
Like
yeah. There's a
it
lot of that there for sure.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
nostalgia within this. Now, obviously, being early days,
Yeah.
is there's so much more that can come from this, and I've got a lot of faith in you guys because you've proven experience with games. So we've gone over what Xfil really sits as
Yeah.
and where it's going to sit. I mean, you mentioned that it want accessibility. You can have a great game on PC. You want to bring it to console. You're not going to try and take over something, but sort of sit beside it, and it's going to
Yeah.
be a
Yeah.
very it's going to be a genre which yes is sort of done, but it's also sort of different. Like there's
Yeah.
different aspects to it, so it'll come as a breath of fresh air. Now there is so many different things that we can crazy go over, and we're going to have more and more of these
Sure, sure.
in-depth
Yeah,
talks
yeah.
as we possibly can, because there is so much to
Yeah.
cover this over the next six
Yeah.
12
I
months.
agree.
But when I say over the next 6 12 months, I'm mentioning all that because you guys actually have your active roadmap on the front page screen of your game. So when you load in, you can
Yep.
add it to your wish list. You can join the Discord. It's actually a very intuitive UI. Like that front is really nice and simple. I quite like it. And then when I saw that you can actually flick through the roadmap where you've got it
Yep.
based in the quarter one, quarter two,
Yep.
and where that's going to sit, you've got all your AI looking to come in. You've got your different game modes, which
Yep.
we'll definitely go over game modes in the next one because you've got quite a few. And I was talking to Big Bird, and
Yeah.
he said that they changed like over the last couple of months how they're adapting,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
why I don't want to go too much in depth
Sure.
of how
Sure. Yeah.
things are now because if you guys go and change them, someone's listening, it might alter. So I want to
Yeah.
make sure we definitely focus on these core parts of the game. But the roadmap, like, explain to us about the roadmap. So you've got, I think it's about like 12 months, 12 months in advance. Like, will you guys have that for a long time? Where do you
Oh
sort
yeah.
of, what do you base? Where does the roadmap sit? Like,
Yeah.
what? How do you
Why is
sit
it?
the
Why is
AI
it
in
there?
quarter one?
Basically.
Yeah,
Oh
like
yeah.
give us a rundown of how that's going to work as we follow the game for the next
Well,
six,
there's
twelve
there's there's
months.
two parts of this. One is the relationship with the consumer or the gamer or our customer or whoever, whatever you want to name them. The other side of that is probably more about us making promises we can keep and showing that as a differentiator because it really isn't normal anymore, which is sad.
No,
you know.
no, no, no.
Um, but we realized really quickly that one, showing flashy stuff and getting a lot of wish list is a recipe for disaster, and we've seen it happen over and over again. So again, we
I've
have to,
personally seen that happen in
yeah,
recent.
we
Absolutely, you pump
we
a game up and then it just is full of
yeah,
bugs
and then we
and
need
just
to
goes to crap.
and we need to have the fundamentals there, and that needs to be proven. We've had more people through the game now than most of those games when they launched. We've had probably 30,000 people through the game already. You know,
And
in
that's
the
just
last
in alpha, and you
Yeah,
guys
this
doing the
is
odd
this is
demo
all
here and
this is
there.
all run
Like,
up to early access. Yeah, so we know for a fact that by the time we hit early access, we already have been through all of the major bugs, and they've already been fixed and repaired, and we're already past that phase, right? So the big point being that we don't want to have any doubt whatsoever when we launch. That's what that roadmap is also part of that. It's part of showing you guys like this is what we've done. This is where we're going. We're going to adjust this thing. And yeah, we're not going to hit every single one of these things. But what we're trying to just show again and again and again and again is like we've been here, we've done this, we know the scope of EXFIL. Nothing in EXFIL is honestly nothing in there is a technical challenge beyond what we're aware of and like is within our own grasp essentially. Where a lot of games are reaching for abilities that they don't even know how to create, which is
no,
cool.
well
Which is
past
cool.
their
I'm
control.
act
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm all for that. But at the same time, failure, risk of failure goes up massively. Um, and then hopefully even more so, you guys ask questions about this stuff, and I think that's what's happening. I tried to do a roadmap like this about 6 months ago, and if you look at our Steam page, it's up there, but nobody understood it because I was showing time periods over time, and I was trying to be really transparent, and it just came
So it
across
was too
completely
much.
wrong. Yeah, it was too much. So it'd be like, well, this is the period in which this feature is going to be completed, but we don't know who's going to do the feature and we don't know where in that period it's going to be completed, but that's our goal, right? And people were just like, well, does it take that long to do the feature? I was like, no, that's not what I mean. What I mean is it
Yeah.
will be done during this period. And I was just like, oh, I failed. Um, so actually, Loki, one of the other main guys, who incidentally was he was the lead game designer for Starship Troopers Extermination.
Oh
Um,
god, that game, beautiful,
Yeah, and
beautiful.
unfortunately didn't get everywhere it could have been, but that's water under the bridge, and he learned and he grew a lot, and like I was just so stoked when me and him sat down and figured out that this was kind of in his wheelhouse, and he really wanted to do it. That was the key. Like he was
So you look at
super in on
the
this.
team's got two devs that have actually made games, been squad successful as hell in the
Yeah,
grand scheme of things, and
yeah,
then
and,
you've
and
got the Starship Troopers, which for what it was, like people
yeah,
actually saw a TikTok of it this morning when I
yeah,
was scrolling through, and then I was just like, oh, it's a game that I hadn't like fully dived into. It was one that you got had a bit of a muck
yeah,
around, a bit
yeah,
of fun, but it's scratching the itch for a lot of nostalgia that
yeah,
people were wanting because there was the bugs version that Squad had for the mod,
yeah.
and that's where it gained a lot of traction. A lot of people were just like,
So
"Oh, this game's
so
actually coming out."
so he made the mod. That's
Well,
where it
there you
came
go.
from.
So,
Yeah, yeah,
like, you've got two proven
yeah,
devs hitting this game, and it's confidence for us as a consumer knowing that at least you guys have been super transparent. All the information's there. We're going to be doing all these podcasts where we can to try and
Yeah,
dive deep into a lot of those things where you can actually just have a casual conversation and then
totally. Yeah,
figure out what's going on. Because the worst
yeah,
thing that I see is when you get some of the content creators where they're just blowing a game up, and we were sort of guilty of it with a couple of
sure.
past games, but
Yeah,
everyone does to a degree. But you're blowing the game up to be this is so amazing, it's outstanding, and then it launches, and then it's just got such game breaking bugs. Half the population can't play it because they're still running 1080s.
I know.
Like the funny enough, the Steam reviews actually as the most popular GPU currently is the 1660
1660.
Super.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That
so you
doesn't
look at that and
surprise
just
me.
go,
Yeah.
well, that's your gaming market. You need to be able to hit that.
It
Like
is.
I've
It,
got a
I
bit.
would say it's our mid right now, but yeah, yeah,
You
people can
need
hit
to
it.
aim for the
Yeah,
mid-range
yeah,
PCs,
yeah,
like, and it's really confident. It's going to build a lot of confidence for community that
yeah,
you're able to sit down and do that.
yeah.
Now I'll be putting all the links for your Discord for the
Cool.
game on Steam,
Yep.
everything in this video. We're going to do so many more. Where possible, time for the slight
Yeah,
day and
yeah.
night difference that what it is between
No worries
Canada
at
and
all.
Australia
Yeah,
here,
yeah,
but we'll start diving much better into like what all the game modes are and just keeping track with you guys where possible, so that way everyone can follow us if you just want a casual
yeah,
podcast.
yeah,
But you guys I've seen have got some really good content creators within this space already, which I imagine are good to do some
yeah,
sweaty cinematic videos soon.
yeah.
So I'm really keen to be able to see those. But before we wrap this one up today, is there anything else you wanted to be add to episode 13 of this
I
Big D
mean,
podcast
I,
today?
I, th- I think the big opportunity for people who there's a lot of opportunities to come and play the game. We do about every 6 to 8 weeks. We do an open weekend on Steam, so that's
Which is the demo which is running this week.
well,
That's
that's Steam
correct.
Next Fest specifically, but we do our own open demos about every 6 to 8 weeks anyway.
And you
So
can
we just
follow that. They're in the announcements
yeah,
in the Discord, aren't they? So go
yep,
to the
yep.
Discord, which I'll link at the bottom, and then you can follow those
The,
there.
the the point being, if you come and play and it's something you like, then we've given you opportunity to decide if it's something you like or not, and we're not gonna get you paying money and then deciding, realizing that what you had paid for is not what you thought you were getting. Come and
Yeah,
find out that you are getting exactly what you think you're getting, and
you don't want
then
30,000 sales and have 20,000
no,
refunds.
no,
Like,
and then fair enough, like pay us after, like that's totally okay. We're all self-funded. We have no shareholders. We're not beholden to anybody. Like that's the way we're gonna, and we don't plan to change. We're not taking anybody's money. We don't need it, right? We're not in that position, but we are doing pre-sales now, and it's going pretty good. So it's for the people who are already in the community and already wanna, they're bugging us. They're like, "Okay, we want to back you now." And we're like, okay, cool. So we've set up a portal, and that's all kind of available now. And the big point being that it's the difference between getting about 60% of the money and 90%, or even
yeah,
so it is worthwhile for the people who really are already sold and have had fun and are interested in backing us. You can check on our Discord, and it's for us cash wise, it's a massive difference. So it's not negligible. Normally I wouldn't push it as much, but I'm just like it's such a
it
big
only helps.
difference.
It's
Yeah,
going to help you guys
exactly,
push faster.
exactly.
You get, other developers, coders, animators, just it all
Yeah.
pumps back to the community. And that's
Yep.
what
Yep.
people
Yep.
want to see results, though. They want to know that their
Totally.
money is actually going back into the game and not just, to go into your next
Here's
midlife
here's
crisis
here's my
Porsche or something like
yeah, I was
that.
gonna say here's my promise I'll make to you guys. I promise you will see faster progress out of a 6 to 8 man team than you're gonna see in studios with 40 to 50 people.
So updates every 3 weeks.
Sure. 3 weeks at
That's
least, right?
3 weeks, the old 3 weeks.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Three
what we're going to do is
days. No. Yeah.
three. Do it.
Yeah.
No sleep.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I really appreciate it, Taxi, for taking the time for this podcast. I'll
No
definitely
worries.
steal you for a lot more as we see the
Yeah, yeah.
game develop. We'll have more questions. Otherwise, we could sit here for 6 hours doing a
Yeah, yeah,
huge
no
dive,
worries.
but people are gonna
Yeah,
get
yeah.
people are gonna get too bored
Short and
of
sweet.
just
Yeah.
us talking back and forth. So, thank you so much for taking the time
Yep.
out of your day.
Yep.
We'll catch up again
Yep.
soon,
For sure,
hopefully in a
man.
couple of weeks,
Yep.
and we'll get some more deep dive, sweaty
Yep.
questions
Yep.
going.
Yep. Yep.
But until then, if you need to know anything, all the links for everything will be at the bottom of this video. You can then reach into the Discord and have a chat to all the devs, the moderators, and just get amongst this. But until then, we'll see you next time, and thank you very much, Taxi.
Cheers.
Enjoy.
Yep. Thank you.